Chapter 11. Red Turtle Shell Power. "How are you doing, dear?" Governor Singh asked. She was standing next to the bio bed in the small med bay. Naomi smiled. "My head doesn't feel like someone is trying to get out of it with ice picks. That's a plus." Governor Singh grinned. "I'd imagine. The autodoc pumped you full of analgesics." The old woman consulted the biomonitor. "It couldn't make heads or tails of whatever's going on inside you." She smiled, tapping an image of Naomi's thoracic region, full of mysterious shapes with question marks on them. "Jax said you'd explain it." When she saw Naomi's expression, she held up a hand, adding, "When you're ready." Naomi nodded. "That's fair. Are we en route to Columbiana?" The aged Indian woman nodded. "What's a few more days away from Kelso? Work can wait." She smiled a tight-lipped smile. Naomi nodded. "Thanks." She looked around, then met the governor's eyes. "And sorry." The governor pulled a stool out from under the small workstation set against the wall opposite from the bio bed. "I gave Jackson a ration of shit. But to be honest, it's fine. I called ahead and arranged a meeting with the station governor. If nothing else, it gives you all some cover. But I wouldn't mind catching up with Ivanka. It's been a while. She doesn't get invited to the Emperor's dick-wagging summits since they seceded." When Naomi smiled, the older woman added, "Don't get me wrong, I'm still pissed at the both of you." She sighed. "But that ship has sailed. Now it's time to make the best of things." Naomi nodded, her smile thin. The pain wasn't gone, but it was far less than it was on New Terra. The older woman met her eyes again. "So, tell me what you are." "What happened to when I'm ready?" "I'm old. I don't have forever." Naomi sighed. "Okay." Upstairs, Jeffrey and Jax were sitting in front of the large bulkhead-mounted entertainment screen, playing a game, where each player controlled an animated vehicle driven by a cartoon character. "Hey, cut it out!" Jeffrey shouted as Jax's cartoon vehicle nudged Jeffrey's into a turtle creature, causing it to spin and eject a bunch of the gold coins he had collected. "All's fair in love and Mario Kart," Jax replied. His cart, driven by a green lizard creature, zipped ahead. Jeffrey's driver, a mushroom person, recovered. His cart began accelerating, passing a computer-controlled vehicle driven by a shabby man in red coveralls. As Jeffrey's cart was gaining on another, driven by a woman in a pink ball gown, she turned and hurled a red turtle shell at him. "Oh, come on!" he shouted as his cart flipped over in an explosion of coins. "Sorry," Skip said. The pink-gowned woman waved as her cart pulled away. Jax grinned. "In our defense, we've been playing this game for a long time." "I've never heard of it," the other man said, leaning bodily into a turn, holding his controller at an angle. "I had Skip look the company up when I found the archive with all these ROMs on it. They merged with another game company 200-odd years ago, then eventually merged with another, and then finally that company went out of business." "Pity," Jeffrey said. He glanced over his shoulder. "Hey, Rudy, could you get me another beer?" The rust-colored nav droid was plugged into his charger base nearby. "Oh, sure. I'm just sitting here not doing anything. Just charging so that I can, remain alive." With a click, he disengaged from the charger and rolled to the kitchenette. "Me too, pal," Jax said. Rudy was placing the 2 beers on the coffee table when Jax threw his arms in the air. Boom! His racer had crossed the finish line and was doing a dance as the cart continued on. Jax and Jeffrey were picking new racers when Naomi and the governor came upstairs. Jax turned and set his controller down. "Good to see you up and around." He got up and joined the two of them, ushering Naomi toward the sole chair in the lounge space. "How are you doing?" She nodded. "Not bad. Not out of the woods, I don't think, but I'm at least up and around." She dropped into the plush chair. "That's something," Jax agreed. Governor Singh moved to the kitchenette and started preparing a meal. Naomi watched her. What time is it? How long was I out? Jax smiled. You were out most of the day. We'll be at Columbiana tomorrow afternoon. She looked shocked. Damn. I guess holding all this, she tapped her head, really took it out of me. Jeffrey raised an eyebrow, but was ignored by everyone else. Welcome to Columbiana. The Osprey clanked and rattled as she sat down on the landing pad. Columbiana Station was a design Jax had seen used only a few times. The station was built into an asteroid, 1/2 kilometer in diameter and almost 5 tall. They had built the space dock facility outside of the rocky primary station. 2 kilometers of what looked like the skeletal remains of a Christmas tree were hanging from the bottom of the potato-shaped rock. Landing bays on arms of various lengths jutted out like spokes. Some arms nearer to the station were over 1 kilometer long and ended in large airlocks. They were designed to accommodate larger bulk freighters, keeping them from crowding the docking area. Smaller bays, like the one Jax had just set the Osprey down in, were half spheres, flat on the bottom, the dome overhead large enough to handle a ship nearly 4 times the size of the Valerian Co-op Interceptor. When closed, each half-sphere made an enclosed space, perfect for transactions one didn't want anyone else witnessing. Columbiana Station orbited a gas giant that had started out with hundreds of moons, moonlets, and large asteroids the giant's gravity had snagged over the millennia. Mining had reduced that number to closer to 100 or 2, making moving about the planetary orbit a lot safer in some ways. While the years of mining had reduced the number of orbital hazards, the lethality of those left behind was considerable. No one but those in command of Columbiana knew exactly how many, but the rumor was that most of the remaining asteroids were weapons platforms. Missile batteries, plasma cannons, rail guns, and likely a bunch more things that no one knew about, made any unauthorized approach to Columbiana a suicide mission. This was something at least 2 bold Imperial admirals had discovered during the war. Each thought they could turn Columbiana's substantial helium-3 and other mining industries to Imperial ends. Each was wrong. The gas giant provided a nearly endless supply of rare elements like helium-3 and other elements. The moons and moonlets provided the raw materials to build the station, both inside the asteroid and out. An indicator on the flight console turned green. Jax toggled the intercom. "We're green. Meet me at the embarkation room." He turned in his chair, looking at Rudy. "At least you get to stretch your... roll your ball."
"That sounds disgusting. Never say it again,"
the droid said, disconnecting from his navigation console and rolling toward the spiral staircase that connected all the decks of the Osprey. When Jax reached the common deck, he spied his aunt sitting on the couch, cup of tea in one hand, tablet in the other. "You staying here?" She looked up. "Is there a reason I need to come with?" "No, should be pretty straightforward, I hope," Jax replied. His aunt nodded, turning her attention back to what she was reading on her tablet. Naomi was already waiting in the embarkation room, leaning on Jeffrey. Rudy was there as well. The ramp lowered and unfolded to clang against the metal of the landing platform. Jax looked at Naomi, who was back to looking like death warmed over. Her earlier recovery the night before had been short-lived. "So, your friend, Leonard, you said? How do we find him?" Naomi was leaning heavily on Jeffrey. "He keeps an office on level 23. She stopped, breathing deep. "Abernathy Brokerage is the name." Jax nodded, then looked at Rudy. "Plot us a course." The droid bobbed one small metal fist, yes, and rolled off ahead of them. They moved slowly. Naomi could barely maintain a shuffle, and a fast walk was out of the question. Jeffrey had suggested having Baxter come along to carry her, but Jax was always leery of having the combat droid walk around an unfamiliar space station, especially one he hadn't visited before. Space Control had assigned them a docking bay near the midpoint of the 2-kilometer length of the space dock facility. The lift stopped a half-dozen times, spacers mostly, coming and going from one section of the space dock to the other. Most barely even glanced at Naomi, pale, her eyes sunk in. When they finally cleared the space dock section, the lift went straight to level 23.
"This way,"
Rudy said, rolling off down the corridor. It took half an hour to navigate the warren of corridors that made up level 23. Clearly, this section of the commercial zone was the low-rent district, most businesses taking up a space smaller than Jax's berth on the Osprey. They passed prospecting equipment rentals, loan brokers, immigration lawyers, and more. When they arrived at Abernathy Brokerage, they found the door locked. Jax pressed the call button repeatedly. Nothing. He looked at Jeffrey and Naomi. The ex-Imperial interface was not looking good. Her jet-black hair was limp and sweat-soaked, hanging in front of her face. Jax slammed his fist on the door. "Go away, we're closed for the day," a voice said from the intercom unit above the call button. "Open up, we need your help," Jax said, leaning down to the intercom. It had a camera pickup as well. "We don't do helping people, we're a brokerage." Jax opened his mouth, but Naomi spoke first. "Leonard, it's Naomi." Jax waited to see what would happen. When nothing did, he raised his fist to slam on the door again, but it slid open. Standing inside was a lanky Asian man. "Come in," he urged. Jax and Jeffrey rushed inside, followed by Rudy. The interior of Abernathy Brokerage was not what Jax expected. It was more university dorm than business. Food and carbonated beverage containers were everywhere, sometimes not completely empty. "Well, this is disgusting," Jeffrey complained. Their host moved to stand in front of them. "Keep your judgment to yourself, preppy." Jeffrey looked at Jax, eyebrows up. The latter shrugged. Leonard came around to look at Naomi. "You look like shit. What's wrong?" He looked up at Jeffrey and Jax. Leonard moved to a sofa that Jax wouldn't sit on if someone offered him money. After clearing food containers, tablets, and what might have been the packaging of a sex toy, he said, "Put her here." Jax helped Jeffrey lay Naomi down on the incredibly disgusting sofa. Leonard looked at each of his guests before repeating, "So? What's wrong?" Jax looked at his aunt's assistant. Naomi had come clean to her, but not Jeffrey. And Jax wasn't thrilled about one more person being in the loop. He cleared his throat as he thought. She took in a bunch of data. We meant to store it on a data storage unit, but it was damaged and she had to act fast, so she pulled it all off the storage unit." He wiggled his fingers for emphasis. "She said it was too much. Now it's hurting her." After a breath, "She tried to upload it to the ship's computer, but couldn't." Leonard looked from Jax to Naomi. "What kind of data? How much?" "A couple of petabytes, and does it matter?" Jax retorted. The lanky Asian man shrugged. "Kinda. I mean, it will affect how much I charge you." He quickly stepped back when Jax lunged for him. He wagged a finger. "Hey, Muscles, I'm her only hope." Jeffrey looked at Jax appraisingly. "Muscles?" Jax gave him a look. "Leonard," Naomi whispered, still hanging off Jeffrey. "Just fucking do it." Jax added, "I'll cut you in on 20% of what we get when we sell it." He looked the other man in the eye. "Guessing that's more than your normal take." Leonard made a noise like someone had just insulted his mother. 40. 20, Jax repeated. 30, Leonard countered. 20, and I don't punch you repeatedly, Jax said. 20, but you do something for me as well, Leonard said. Jax opened his mouth, but closed it when Jeffrey put a hand on his arm, then gestured to Naomi on the couch. Fine. Fine, Leonard said. Jax looked at Leonard. So can you transfer the data from her into a storage unit, or something? Leonard looked around the cramped space. He turned to Jax. Go to the commerce zone and get a storage module. I don't have any that are big enough. What level? Jax asked. Level 18. The big shops are up there. There's a spacer tech that doesn't overcharge. Jax nodded. Okay. He turned to Jeffrey. Keep an eye on him." The younger man looked aghast. "What am I going to do? Incapacitate him with paperwork?" Jax frowned, looking from one man to the other. "He's a string bean. Blow on him." He didn't wait for a response. "Come on, Rudy. I'll need you to find this rabbit hole again." They left, the door sliding shut behind them. Jeffrey rocked on his heels. "So, brokerage, huh? What's that like?" Shopping. "You know we can't trust that guy, right?" Rudy said, rolling along beside Jax as they made their way back to the central elevator bank that ran the entire length of the station. "We don't have a choice. I'm guessing he's an interface like Naomi. It only makes sense. No one else would have a clue how to help her." "That tracks," the droid agreed. They reached the lifts and entered the first available upward-bound car. Level 18 was a marked difference from 23. The walkways were considerably wider, and the ceiling was at least 4 or 5 meters high instead of 3. The shops on that level were mostly brands that Jax was familiar with, many having an outpost on Kelso Station as well. Spacer Tech was near the outer hull of the asteroid-turned space station. The back wall of the space was brown and gray rock, carved into decorative patterns. Jax had Rudy wait by the door when he entered, moving quickly down the aisles to the data storage modules area. Another droid, a newer model navigation droid, approached Rudy. "Hello, I am B7X1900G. My friends call me Gertie." It beamed wirelessly to Rudy. "I am Rudy," he replied, not bothering to share his original model or serial number. "Are you lost? That would be humorous. A navigation model. Lost." The other droid pressed. Rudy's head made a full rotation. "Of course I am not lost. I am waiting for my friend." Gertie was several generations newer than Rudy. Instead of a smart material rollerball, she hovered in a finely tuned grav lift system. Her frame was spotless white, like polished ceramic. Her arms were folded into her body, blending almost seamlessly. She said, "They allow you inside. This station is Imperial adjacent. However, the authorities and most of the residents do not share the Emperor's rather bigoted views on droids. At least, mostly." Rudy rolled closer to the door. "I am aware. He asked me to wait here. We are in a hurry, and he does not need my help in shopping." "Are you new to Columbiana?" the other droid persisted. "We are just here on business," Rudy replied, adding, "I am afraid we will not be here long." Jax emerged. "Ready, pal?" He looked from Rudy to Gertie. "I am," Rudy replied, rolling away. His head swiveled. "Goodbye, Gertie. It was nice to meet you." "Goodbye, Rudy," Gertie beamed as Jax and Rudy rounded a corner. "Making new friends?" Jax asked, as they worked their way back to the central elevator stack. The droid made a noise. "I can't focus on romance with Naomi at death's door," Jax chuckled. "You're so melodramatic." Aboard the Imperial scout ship, Watchful, Agent 2 was standing near a window at the rear of the bridge. The small ship was about twice the size of the Osprey, with a crew of 20. Meant for long-range scouting, it was the fastest type of ship in the Imperial Navy. For the most part, all ships traveled through wormholes at the same speed. But in recent years, Imperial physicists had discovered a means of shortening wormhole travel time by compressing the wormhole. It took an incredible amount of power that was directly proportional to the mass of the ship. For the time being, only scout ships and secure courier ships had this new technology installed. It was the first wormhole-related discovery since the initial discovery of the Ganymede ship. A lieutenant approached the agent. "Sir, I've got something for you. I've been accessing station and colony space control systems since we departed, looking for anything that matches what you gave us." The Watchful was sitting in deep space, a day out from New Terra. "You've found something." It wasn't a question. The young woman nodded. A ship named the Osprey docked at Columbiana Station. Agent 2 nodded.
Please have the captain set a course. Best speed.
The lieutenant nodded and hurried forward to the bridge proper. 2 turned and left the bridge. Down in the cargo hold, he checked in on 2 of the enlisted crew members working on a project for him.
Remember, no data lines anywhere within a meter,
even under the deck plating.